We talk regularly about the nightly arrival of so-called asylum seekers on the southern shore. They get put up in hotels at your expense. So far this year, more than 42,000 strapping young fellows have arrived. I think there's a couple of women and elderly men amongst them, but basically 9 out of 10 are strapping young fellows. And that's more than all other years on record combined. As Jamie Jenkins, formerly of the Office for National Statistics, puts it, the hotel bill this year for these guys, steady on now, it's going to be between £2.5 billion and £3.5 billion. £2 billion, £3 billion, a billion here, a billion there. Pretty soon you're talking about real money. Jamie is here with us once again. I mean, these are really extraordinary sums that we're now blowing through on this, aren't they?
Yeah, and if you think, what does £2.5 billion mean? Well, when Liz Truss tried to cut the top rate of income tax, doing kind of her failed premiership as the Prime Minister, there was absolute uproar, and that was around £2.5 billion, the cost of doing that. So
So basically, if we believe the official version, the markets decided Liz Truss had to go because of a £2.5 billion tax cut. But when you give £2.5 billion to put up a bunch of Albanians in hotels, the markets are cool with that?
Well, it seems to be the way, Mark. It's with Liz Truss, it was more a case of, well, you haven't explained how you're going to pay for it. But the markets don't seem to worry about, well, how are you going to pay for the £2.5 billion? Now, why are we in the position that we're in? You've talked about we've hit over 40,000. If we carry on the way things are going, we'll probably hit about 53,000 coming across the channel. That's slightly down to what we were thinking might happen a couple of months ago. And the only reason for that, the only thing that seems to be working to reduce the numbers is the weather. So we've seen very few coming over in November so far. We've had many days where there's been zero coming across because of the weather. But you can blame them, people coming over, but you can't kind of divorce the fact that the government and the civil service are a bit at fault to this as well, Mark, because if you think of all the people that came across in 2021, to around 28,000 people.
Right.
Recent numbers came out that only 4% of those applications have been processed. So if basically you're talking nearly 27,000, 26,000 people.
So just to stick with the math on that, that basically means they only processed 1,000 of the 2021 intake.
Yeah.
And so presumably this year, the 55,000 you say will be coming over. And if they only process another 1,000, that's 54,000 added to the 27,000. I mean, pretty soon we're going to have the equivalent of Edinburgh or Cardiff or Belfast staying in hotels.
And that's the way things are heading now. Suella Braverman was saying today they're finding it even more difficult now to book accommodation. Well, of course, you've got all these people coming over. Remember, when they come over, they can't work until they've gone through the asylum system. And if you've got 96% of people who made their application in 2021 not being processed, you're going to be waiting for those. You think of it in terms of a backlog. They've got to do those first before they even get on to the 53,000 that they do this year. Now, it doesn't look like these numbers are slowing down anytime soon. So you're going to be going from 53,000, maybe 60, 70, 80, 90, 100,000 next year. And if this carries on, you're right, you're going to have huge numbers. And where are you going to put them? We've already seen stories that you're covering, Mark. You know, these aren't hotels that your travel lodges and your Premier Inns. Obviously, I've stayed in them, they're fine. But we are talking some premium places, 4- or 5-star places that people are being put in. And on the news today, you've seen people in Blackpool for over a year where you've got homeless people, British people, stuck on the street.
We just saw that on the news bulletin. There's actual citizens of the United Kingdom sleeping rough on the streets, and the hotels are full of people who arrived in the last couple of weeks. But just to look at it the way the BBC and The Guardian do, they think the issue is that we're not processing people efficiently enough. Well, if you can only process 1,000 people a year and say you've got 50,000 coming this year, I mean, the cost of hiring, you basically have to multiply your processing capacity by 50. How is that remotely feasible?
Well, the government are talking, as usual, bringing in some private companies to start doing the processing. So maybe you've been covering Serco, so maybe the Serco are putting them up. Maybe Serco will be asked to look at the kind of process in them as well. So it's got a good business model if you're one of these private companies, because they're coming in, they're getting paid to put them up in places, and then they're probably get paid to look after them. Now, tomorrow, Mark, and I'll tweet about this tomorrow, and maybe we can discuss it next week or so. We get the latest figures on which countries they are coming from. Now, in the last set of figures, we did see Albania become the biggest nationality to start with. We probably will see that get even bigger for the latest figures. But I suppose one of the silver linings with regards to the hotels is we are noticing that some of the Albanians that are coming over are vanishing. So they're not costing to go in the hotels because they're just vanishing. They're not coming through the legal ports. They're coming through over the channel. They're vanishing. So they're not costing us, but you've got to be careful.
That's great news. The Albanians are vanishing. Well, let's just see how many vanished Albanians can a society take, because you know, when it's these big nights, when the weather's calm and you get 1,000 people coming, you know the exact numbers better than I do, but that's roughly half the number of babies born in England and Wales that day. I think that's 2,100 or something like that, babies born in England and Wales in a typical day. So effectively, you're increasing your population by 50% just from the guys arriving on the southern shore.
That is correct, and obviously we've also got the kind of what you would class the legal immigration to put on top of that, and the ONS project about 200,000 on top of that. So this is a critical issue. You've raised a good point with the births there, Mark, in that we do have a critical problem in this country. We are not having enough births to actually sustain the population in the long term, to actually pay the taxes for all these people who are living older. But all these people coming over on migrant boats aren't helping the matter because they can't go and work in the first place. So the government really does need to get a grip of it. And what have they done? Thrown more money to France. It seems to be the more money you give France, the more migrants to come over the channel. So it doesn't seem to be a very good business model for us.
Well, we're giving money to France, we're giving money to Rwanda, we're giving money to Albania to make Albania more agreeable. I mean, good luck with that. And now we're giving more money again to France, so we'll be giving more money, I take it, to Rwanda and to Albania. I mean, at some point, this is going to crack. It's going to crack the health service. It's going to crack the social services. There's simply not going to be young people can't get houses, can't get flats, can't get bed sits because of all the people arriving every night.
Well, I think the first thing that's going to crack is probably the Conservative Party. This is going to become one of the biggest problems for them in the next general election. And if they don't get a grip on it, and Sunak doesn't seem to be having a grip on it, the voters will be voting with them and probably kicking them out. Whether Starmer can sort that out is another question again.
Do you think people understand the logic of the arithmetic here, that if you let in 27,000, you process 1,000 of them, you let in 55,000, you process 1,000 of them, you let in 75,000, you process 1,000? Do they understand the ruthlessness of the arithmetic here?
No, and I don't think enough's been shone a light on this government and the civil service in this, because if they process them faster, some would argue if they do process them faster, you may encourage more people to come over. So there's a chicken and the egg here, and they do need to solve this problem, but we haven't seen any proper solution yet, Mark.
No, you're telling me. Thank you very much, Jamie. It's always great to see you.